We have seen the goodness of God, have we not, in this last year and a half or 2 years? For a while there, it was tough to see, but we've seen it. And I don't care how much noise they make, all right? It's good to have voices. It's okay. So we're not going to worry about that. We're going to let Tim and Aaron be here. One of the greatest ways we have seen the goodness of God is with Paul and Brenda Weber. Are you going to tell exactly what happened? Do I need to provide an intro? Yeah, I know, but Brenda can't be here tonight, so she's not quite feeling quite up to it tonight. We kind of wore her out this morning. So Paul's going to come and just share what God has been doing in their lives and in Brenda's life, and you'll fill them in on the details. Do you have a mic? I do. Well, then why don't you come up here and... We're on live. I forgot to welcome people on live stream. Good to have you here tonight. Stay to the end. It's going to be great.
I think I'll make it. Testing 1, 2. Good. You would think, Pastor, of all the years you've been a pastor, you should never give a microphone to somebody who's been given the gift of teaching by the Holy Spirit. Or Joel Weber. I am Paul Weber. I'm Brenda's husband. So that's the joke at our last church, that nobody knew me, but everybody knew Brenda. I'm going to hold it closer? All right. I can do both. I can use my Navy chief voice. So on September 23rd, Brenda woke up and wasn't feeling well. She had a headache, and she began vomiting. No big deal, right? We've all done that. At about 10 o'clock, she fell asleep on the couch. She was tired. And I went to choir practice later on in the evening. I saw her on the couch. She was moving. She had moved from one end of the couch to the other. And when I came home, the lights were still off in the house, and I said, "This is not right." And I turned the lights on, and she was still there and on the couch. I tried to wake her up so she could go to bed, and she would not revive. She was breathing, she was moving, but she was unresponsive. So I had my cell phone picked up, called the ambulance, had them come, took her to the hospital, and they discovered that she had meningitis, spinal meningitis. They didn't know what kind at the time. They wouldn't know till the next day, but they had already started her on antibiotics when the first blood test came back that the white blood cell count was up, but they couldn't find anything in the blood. So they did the spinal tap and found it. They kept her in a coma for a week, filling her with antibiotics to kill the bacteria in her brain, in her spinal column. And then they slowly woke her up. They reduced the sedatives, and she began to wake up. Her eyes began to move, and then the next day they would follow you. When she walked in the room, she still wasn't talking. And it took about a week or so before she began speaking. The kids would come. Only one person was allowed in the room, except for me. The nurses looked the other way when I came, if the kids were already there. They said, "Come on in." And then Karen, one day, about a week later, called and said, "Dad," her first words were that, "I love you." The first words she spoke. And it was great. I was just giving God praise. They weren't sure what was going to happen. The doctor said that they were very worried about her heart, that it had already began secreting the enzyme that it does when you're having a heart attack. It was just working very hard, but all the other body functions were fine. And I said, "Well, then we're good to go." Many times I'd be at home praying, and I would be bawling my eyes out, seeking what God wanted. I didn't know. I wanted 30 more years. And then it was like God just turned the faucet off, and I stopped crying. And this peace came over me. mean, I thought it was wrong. I said, no, I should still be crying. I should still be upset, but I'm not. I'm not upset. It's going to be okay. No matter what, it's going to be okay. And that's just how I felt, the peace of God that, passes your understanding, even though you have no idea what's going on. It's going to be okay. So that's the background. Another week, as she woke up, they moved her out of ICU into a regular room, and then they began the physical therapy that she could touch her nose, and then touch other parts of her body on command and do those things. So things went well, even though she didn't, one of the sad parts was that she didn't think she was married to me, that she was married to somebody else, but she knew that Kent and Karen were her kids, and she knew that they were my kids, but we weren't married. She was married to somebody named Drake. Yeah, and so I said, well, who am I married to? Is it Scarlett Johansson? And she laughed and said no, so she knew both that I wasn't married to her, and she knew who Scarlett Johansson was, or is. But this is Brenda's testimony. I mean, I asked her to give me all the things, but that's the background, right? So she is a total miracle. The hospital doctor said, we want you to know that you were considered the miracle of this hospital. We did not think you would be here today. Everybody is talking about you. Between 600 and 1,000 people in the United States contract meningitis. 15% of those people die. Yet my wife not only contracted meningitis, she got bacterial meningitis from a bacteria that the doctors say is found everywhere. You can swab a surface and we can find it. But this one attacked her, bypassed her blood-brain barrier, went right to her head, right to her brain. So God wrote this new story, and Brenda just wanted to say how thankful she is, and these are her words. That's the story, that's the background. If you've seen her, physical therapy said, you don't need us. The only thing she can't do right now is sing. She cannot hit, and she can't drive. But she can drive, she won't drive. She does drive, but she can't hit the notes. It hurts. But she said, believe it or not, I am thankful to be married to my husband and not Drake. She's thankful for God's grace and mercy upon her and our family. It could have been a very different story, and we could have not have been here today and not telling this great story that God has done. The hospital say it's a miracle. When we went to her doctor for her checkup, the doctor came in and said, I read your chart. And he looks up into heaven and says, and we know who did the healing. And then looked down and says, you're a miracle of all the things that have happened to you over the last month. She says, I am thankful that Paul was so alert, knew that something was not right, and called the ambulance immediately. The doctors told me when I got there that she would probably be okay once they found out that it was bacterial, because they knew that they could kill it, and that she was there within 24 hours. I mean, so many doctors and nurses she is thankful for that cared for me and my physical well-being. She's thankful for our families, our church family, Paul's family, her family, and all of those who had been praying for her healing. Because we know that it didn't have to be a yes. I have many friends who, and all of us, right, have had folks we've prayed for and wanted them to live or to get over something, and it doesn't happen. I have a friend in Kansas City, we do. He's been a widower twice, and he's like 55 or 60. He just lost his wife a year ago, his second wife. So we know. My recovery has been so speedy. Those who are unbelievers see that we give God all the credit and that it's a miracle that I am alive. And it's true. I mean, there are a lot of people that see this and say it's a miracle. They have to look, I mean, they don't have to, but they give the credit to God. Our doctor gave the credit to God, not that he's not a believer. That's what we're looking for, that people are seeing that this just doesn't always happen. My church family, she thanks you very much for assisting her with the family with meals and bringing them. They were all very delicious. They were great. I have a new perspective on my life. I can't live just for myself. My life is valuable, and I don't want to use it for my own glory, but I want to glorify Him even more. And I agree with her. Today, when I see Brenda, I look at her so much differently. I am just so thankful every time I see her, and I give thanks to God that He's brought her back and allowed her to live. And I said, I wonder if this is how Martha and Mary felt when Lazarus was raised from the dead. And Brenda said, I wasn't dead. I said, you might as well have been. I mean, you were asleep. You didn't understand us. The second day, they were very worried about you. I didn't know. None of us did. Doctors were saying that you'll most likely be okay. But and then I had this peace, but I didn't know if the peace was, yeah, I knew it was going to be okay, but I didn't know if you were going to be alive or you're going to be dead. I didn't know. But I just knew that it was going to be okay no matter what the outcome. We have, I just said that. So Brenda's home today. Part of her, this illness or whatever, she occasionally just gets a small low-grade fever. Even in the hospital, she would get a spike, a little 99-degree temperature or 100, and then later on in a few hours, it would be gone. So she spiked a fever today. She wasn't feeling well, so she said, I'm not going. I said, I don't blame you. You should not go. She said, I want you to speak. I said, okay, I'll speak. And so we chatted, wrote all these things down. She's very thankful to you. I am very thankful to all of you who have prayed, have given us meals, who've hugged us. But I also want to say, give God all the glory and all the praise, because it has truly been Him. Like I say, when I see her now, I give Him praise and thanks for her very life. I look at her with a new love, a different love. I can't explain it. I don't have words, don't have the vocabulary. I just know that I loved her so much, and I'm so grateful. And I give thanks to God for this Thanksgiving, to be with her and sharing it with her and us with you. Thanks.
We do want to remember tonight, He is a good, good Father. And that is an amazing thing which anchors us together. So did He do a good job, Brenda? That's what I want to know. She's watching, you know. She'll let Andrew know, you know. So she could have been here, you know. She could. So we make a transition normally at Celebrate Thankfulness from this Thanksgiving season to the season of Advent to the coming of Christ. We'll start a Christmas series next Sunday morning. It's been, you know, sticking in my craw that we never finished the book of Matthew. And so, you know, we're in chapter 26 or something. So we're not doing that next week. We're going to review in December. We're going to go back and look at the first couple of chapters of Matthew. And that'll get us through the end of the year. And then we're going to go out of Matthew again because there's just not enough of it to get us through till Easter. So what we're going to do is I'm going to answer the question. I haven't figured out how to frame it, so don't tell anybody yet. People keep asking me, what's going on in the world? I mean, is this the end times? I mean, what's God really doing? So we're going to look at that for 8 weeks. You will most likely be disappointed with the answer you receive, but you will get the Word of God because we know what Jesus says. And so we know where we are, and so we'll introduce that. I don't want to spill the beans too much, but we're going to do that for 8 weeks. And then we're going to finish Matthew so that we end up, you know, perfectly timed for the resurrection on Resurrection Sunday, and then the last portion, because I've been waiting for those last 2 messages for a long time so we can, I don't know. I love Matthew. I've really learned an appreciation of that book and how he has put it together. So that's kind of where we are. But as we begin to look toward Advent, toward Christmas. Every year for the last, since 2009, we've joined in with Advent Conspiracy. You know what the phrase means now. It's a conspiracy of trying to make Christmas not about us and the presents, but about changing the world. And I don't know if you've realized what all we've done since 2009. We built 3 water wells, one in Guatemala, one in, Gulu up north in Uganda, and then another one, 2 in Uganda. One was a water catchment system the first time. So we've built 3 wells that are still functioning as far as we know today. We printed Bibles in Papua New Guinea, finally in their native language, the actual printing of the actual book. We didn't give them cell phones, so they do have cell phones, a few of them actually. But we did Bibles there. We supplied 272,000 meals to people on the border between Thai-Burma. Yeah, I knew if I waited too long, I was going to get the answer there. I don't know what we did in 2016. We got to figure out. It's not on my sheet. I got to figure that out. With Hindustan Bible Institute, we refurbished their training center up in Nepal one year. Then we provided rice. You remember the year where the rain came and we provided rice for, where was that? That was in, what? In Laos. Yeah, it was. And Tesoro game equipment. And we did our timers. So outside, which actually just got put up this year because we had great problems with that. So no need to, we went to court and everything about that one. So it's not an issue. Tesoro, if we do have new bookmarks from them. This is the ministry out in the Coachella Valley to migrant farm workers to their children, where our youth have gone and served. So we have new bookmarks if you'd like to check those out. They'll be on one of the carts back there. Last year, we had a banner year. We built a house for Alex and Millie Ojera, a home for them that they should be moving in December, so early December. So that's very exciting. So now this year, we're come back to Advent Conspiracy. We didn't know what to do. It's like, oh, what are we going to do? We've really kind of run it a lot. But Kristen, come and share what we are going to do, because it's actually quite exciting if you want to know the truth.
Hi. It's kind of hard to follow Paul, but my name is Kristen Willard. It's been a long time since I've been up here talking, so I thought I would start by introducing myself to you and to everyone on the live stream. So I'm going to ask for a little bit of patience because I think you need a little context about me to understand why I'm proposing the project that I'm actually proposing. So I have been at PCC since 2008, and I currently serve on the mission support team with the Buttrees and many others in the room. I help serve as the co-treasurer with my husband of almost 13 years, Rob Sherwin, who's standing in the back. There he is. The thing that you will never see me do at PCC is serve in the kids' min. It's not that I don't like kids' min. I think it's really important, but kids don't like me so much. So in 2010, Rob and I decided we're going to go to help out at a missionary conference in India. And we're traveling with our former worship pastor, who may not have provided complete information to everybody who was involved. So what he told them is that he was bringing grandparents, which is true. We do have grandchildren, but I got the grandchildren the easy way. I didn't give birth. So I was never around kids, and they thought they were getting a grandma, grandma. And what Martin didn't tell us is that we were supposed to be organizing a VBS for the mission team. So we found out about 3 days before we were supposed to travel that we were supposed to organize a VBS and bring everything with us, the craft supplies, everything. Which is okay, I'm kind of organized and detail-oriented, so I figured it out. But there's one problem, which is kids don't like me. So we show up to do this whole thing, and it's pretty elaborate, and I'm telling the Bible story the first day, and I think I'm doing Noah, Was it Noah? Yeah, so the ark. You know, the animals are coming, and you wouldn't think that this is scary, right? And the kids in the front row start screaming. I don't mean a little bit. I mean, they were terrified of me and the animals, and it was so bad we had to stop. God always provides, though. And it turns out there was a grandma, like a real grandma, who travels with her felt board. I'm telling you, God provides. And so we got ourselves reorganized, and the true grandma in the room brought her felt board up and took over everyone who was under the age of 8. So she took them, Rob handled the 8 to 12-year-olds, and if you're a teenager, I'm okay, right? We were fine. But I don't serve in kids' ministries because I'm a little serious. I don't mean to be, but I am the daughter of serious parents. They were the children of serious parents. There just wasn't a lot of frivolity in my home. It's just who I am. And so why am I telling you all this? It's like a really long warm-up to the fact that I need to confess my sins. And my sin is that I kind of lose sight of God and what he's doing sometimes. I get so interested in the details and the organization and the seriousness of some of the things that are going on in the world that I lose sight of the joy that God also brings. And he does say that he came to give us life and give it abundantly. And sometimes I lose that. So I lean a little bit Martha, and I forget about Mary. And it's happened. It's the story of my 2021. So let me speed up a little bit. For the last decade or so, I've been working for a faith-based nonprofit that is called Venture. They're based in Minneapolis, but we do all of our work in Southeast Asia. PCC has been partnering with us for a variety of things. So 272,000 meals delivered along the border of Thailand and Myanmar. Rice seed provided to farmers in Laos. I think there's some other things. We actually currently we PCC are funding a church planting organization in the center of Thailand that has reached 800 new villages this year. Pretty spectacular stuff. And I feel very blessed to be a part of this organization. The reason we exist is to fight injustice, biblical injustice, the most serious of which is the unequal distribution of the gospel. But we also fight things like human trafficking. We fight things like extreme poverty that's caused by the war that's been going on for 70 years now in Myanmar. One of the things we do is get food into Thailand, which involves shipping containers. So, since 2020, with the pandemic, there's been a little bit of awkwardness getting food around the world. And in 2021, there was a coup in Myanmar, which led to, let's say, more awkwardness in getting food delivered around the world. So while we used to be able to ship food legally into Myanmar, we're now smuggling it. And nobody's gonna mention that, right? So just between us. So things get a little serious for me sometimes, and I'm in charge of trying to make sure the food gets where it's going, and it gets a little difficult. So in the midst of this pandemic, when we're having trouble shipping food, I find out that a church in Florida has donated a container full of playgrounds. And I don't take it very well, because I'm trying to get food someplace, and now I've got a container full of playgrounds going someplace, and I confess I was not very happy about it. I was full on Martha, not happy about the playgrounds. But the thing is, for all the trouble we had getting food shipped, we had no trouble getting this container of playground equipment into Thailand. None. At all. We had no trouble getting the containers of playgrounds from one place in Thailand to another, even though all the roads in Thailand were shut down. Okay, so, I'm slow, but I'm not stupid. So I can kind of see that God is in this, right? And I eventually get on board with the playgrounds, and I have been stunned by the transformation that these playgrounds have brought. You will see more about this in the coming weeks, because I will bring pictures and videos so that you can see too what I have seen. But what I want to tell you is that these playgrounds have been brought to kids who have forgotten that there's joy in the world. They are largely refugees from this war in Myanmar. They feel forgotten. They struggle every day to see that there's anything bright and good and kind in the world. And now they have this playground. And I don't mean it's a little playground. It's a playground the size of this stage that showed up, and we've installed 3 of them now. They're all installed at Christian ministries that are trying to reach out to their neighborhoods and attract more people to hear the gospel. And uniformly, the staff of these places have said, having this equipment means more people are coming, more kids are playing, and more kids are coming to understand that there is a God who not only loves them, but wants them to have joy in their life. So when Jim asked me, was there something special we could do this year? I don't offer this project to anyone else. I offer it only to my church. We have an opportunity to send over playgrounds. It costs about $10,000 to send over 4 playgrounds and get them installed. And I'm hoping we can do 8. And if we can get 2 containers of playgrounds and somebody wants to come and help install them, I think I can work that out. So that is going to be our Advent Conspiracy projects. Playgrounds for kids who would not otherwise play and who don't otherwise know that God loves them.